a difficult day for people to come. We appreciate it. So we should get started because I know it's important to get started on time. First of all, we have the approval of the minutes. We had them sent around. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes?
No.
No, we're all good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And do I have a movement? A motion?
A motion. I'll second the motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Minutes, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Minutes are approved. So announcements. We did have, even though it poured, the Easter egg hunt here and, oh yeah, it was in this room. The bunny sat right up here. The kids were adorable. A lot of people came. Yes, and thanks to Bill May of the park board, head of the park board, who had a nice table and chairs set up for me and Margaret, who came to man or woman, an EAC table. And we had, I should have brought them tonight to show you. Darn it. Kirsten's not here either. Kirsten Good Connect of Peace Valley made us really nice flyers in color, like blue, like your agendas, yeah. And a lot of people were very receptive. We had gathered from here and there some really nice, very colorful handouts on things like how to make a rain garden, a children's sort of booklet. I'll bring them next time so you can see them.
Your microphone.
You hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you. Other
Oh,
operation.
okay, how's that? Okay. Anyway, some nice handouts. People were very receptive. A lot of people took them. So hopefully there'll be, I should have gotten emails like I try to do, but I didn't. And thanks to Kirsten and to Bill May for that. They Got Mud. I know some of the people here were at the Got Mud workshop at Peace Valley. That was very successful for them. They got at least 50 people, right? And we're not expecting that kind of number. And people do got mud. And most of those people were from New Britain Township. So clearly this is something that the township needs to address. Upcoming events, the e-recycling is May 6th from 9 to 1. Everybody knows about that. You drive up with whatever it is, your TVs or whatever, and they take it out of your car. And then the yard waste drop, May 9th to 13th, from 7:30 to 2:30. Just Tuesday and Thursday, it seems?
No, Tuesday through Thursday.
Tuesday through
Or
Thursday.
the hours, they're different hours than Friday.
Yes. Well, I thought it was Saturday, 8 to noon. Do I have that wrong? Saturday is 8 to
Or
noon,
maybe it is Saturday, I'm not sure.
9 to noon? Okay.
Community shade.
Oh, that's.
No, the yard waste, I'm
yard
talking
waste.
about.
Recycling and shredding is May the 4th, which is Saturday. Not 6.
Oh, okay.
6 is Monday.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you corrected that. I hope the yard waste, at some point, I hope we can do something more with yard waste, but that would be in the future. So number 4, I just want to let everyone know that at the next meeting, we will be hearing from Ken Jones. So Ken Jones has, as some people here know, because they've had a little shoveling work along those lines, has been working on a number of projects, Veterans Park, Marshall Circle, Circle Drive, planting trees, North Branch Park, no, not North Branch, West Branch Park, planting trees, redesigning basins. So he is going to come and explain to everybody what these projects are. And we'll get more of a lowdown on how they will be going forward. Hopefully the EAC can kind of co-sponsor. Margaret, do you think that that's, I don't mean Margaret, I mean Mary Beth. do you think the EAC co-sponsoring with Ken on those projects would be okay with the Board of Supervisors? Yeah.
With paid him doing it, so.
Yes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So he's been coordinating with Public Works. Ryan Cressman has been, it's just sort of saying, yep, this is, we've accomplished this, you're free to come in and do such and such. They bring mulch, but we spread it. And they'll clean up debris if we remove invasives and things like that. Yeah. Did you want me to say? Hold on. Till next time.
I think Mary Beth wanted me to say this, so could I just?
Sure. Okay.
I actually have an announcement. I was informed by various members of couple members of the Board of Supervisors that they have had many people volunteering for various boards and committees, and they would prefer maybe not to have people overlapping in more than one committee. And I am also on the Parks and Recreation Board, so I was given a choice. And since I had been with Parks and Rec longer, I've decided that I'm going to just be serving on Parks and Rec and no longer serving on the EAC. However, as I put in my resignation letter that I was asked to make to the township, I'm going to continue to serve on EAC until a new member is actually appointed by the Board of Supervisors, so that we always have a quorum for voting purposes, which looks to be particularly important today on Thursday. So I just wanted to make it clear to everybody in the room why I'm here and how long I'm going to continue to serve.
And we're going to miss Brooke.
Yes.
Brooke has been.
Thank you.
Yeah, so such a good worker. I'm really, but I hope I know you've always wanted to be on that park board, so. And I wish you, good luck with that.
You still have all my contact information. If
I
you need to
do,
reach out
I
to me
do.
for anything.
Yeah, yeah, maybe some advice on ordinances. We'll get to the ordinances. I thought we should let you know about the meeting with Amanda Sandor at the Bucks County Conservancy District that we had after our previous meeting. We had told you we were going to do that. It was wonderful. Do you guys want to say anything about that rather than me just continuing to talk here?
Well, nothing like putting us on the spot.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can, go ahead.
Well, I mean, basically, it was just kind of a beginner overview of taking a look at land development plans from an environmental perspective and how they actually go and will inspect to ensure that the environmental aspects of the design are implemented. So we were given a few different examples of designs and shown, although we were reading somewhat upside down on our side of the table, so it wasn't that easy to read, but still it was informative. And for someone that hasn't really, other than certain projects in this township, personally looked at land development plans, it was informative for me.
And just for the record, the plans that we saw were all redacted as to the location and personal information. Somebody in the audience is laughing.
We're gonna miss this part of Brooke.
Because we had not done a Freedom of Information Act request, we didn't actually have the data. They were all, but we were told they were all from this area, Doylestown or New Britain, so it was really just a lesson. We weren't examining or being told about any particular project.
Yeah, I really appreciated it, not only because she pointed out how for instance, how the stormwater movement was mapped onto the plan, all the existing trees were mapped onto the plan, and things like that, the grading. But we found out, and this was kind of something that just came out as we were speaking, that she is in charge of going out to these sites at multiple points during the process and approving or not approving what they've been up to. So they have to, for example, mark off the various spots that they will be working very clearly. And they have to set up some protections for various things, such as trees that are going to be kept. It's very important that big machines can't go near them, for example. She goes out, she inspects everything and she says, okay, you're good to go. Or nope, you've got to do this, this and this before you can break ground. They have to do it. She goes back and if you meet her, you would say, all right, because she's this little young woman with, blondish hair. And she gets her hard hat on and she goes out there and she tells her, you can or you can't. Then she'll go back, she'll inspect again. And at multiple points, she goes out and gives them the okay or not. And that's it. And if they've done something that they should not have done, she brings them in. She says they don't like to be brought in. And they get a fine. If they keep it up, the fine keeps going up. So it's nice to know there are some teeth. So that's for the environmental stuff, the trees and the water. I don't know what inspections are being done otherwise. That's something that we need to investigate. Any questions on that? Yeah, that was,
Now, before you move to the next agenda item, I do want to jump in when you're done.
oh,
Here's a question, what is the BCCD?
I'm sorry.
You said, right?
I know Bucks County Conservancy District. My bad. I start to use an acronyms. And I shouldn't.
Thanks.
Yep.
So just getting to your announcements, because this afternoon, when I was thinking about the spring events, I went onto the township website to take a look and I had written down May 6th because I was actually looking at a brochure from 2023. The brochure for May 4th is not on the website yet. So, John, you may want to
Check it out.
check that out. And then I probably jumped the gun on the yard waste. I'm assuming we're doing it, but that brochure that's posted is also from 2023. There is one?
I'll check it
Yeah,
out.
there is a
Okay.
yard waste collection. You have the magazine.
So I apologize. May 4th is the e-cycling and in a moment, we may have the dates of the yard waste.
It is May 7th to May 11th. Tuesday to Friday, 7:30 AM to 2:30 PM. And Saturday, 8 to noon.
Okay, good. So we had everything right except the dates. Okay. Do you guys take advantage of that at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's always so full when I try to
Compost,
come over
right.
here. It's,
I've done the even cycle.
yeah.
Me too, yeah.
I have a fax machine at home. It's never seen the light of day again, so I might bring that.
It's a good idea. Okay. All right, so the recommendations to the Board of Supervisors regarding the zoning and the Saldo amendments. Saldo is subdivision and land development ordinance. So I sent out, and I apologize that you didn't get my email, because I think everybody here. Yeah, I put you on my email list, yeah, you're right. These are recommendations, right? Yeah. It might just have printed it. I put draft here, yeah. I've got, you know
Yeah,
what?
because
I
yours
put
went
this
through
in
after
here,
I
and I
shifted.
pushed it down.
Excuse us, which is what, making sure we all have the same version.
For those of you, I know. Unless you're accustomed to reading ordinances, when you first start to read ordinances, I don't know about anybody else, but my eyes just go like crazy like this, but I've been reading ordinances for about a month now, a lot. So I'm getting used to it. I'm also getting used to where to find certain things in everybody's ordinances. Like, so I've gone around to other townships looking for these same things, and it gets to be fair, there's a pattern. So it's not that hard to find. Did anybody dive in? Does anybody have any? Yeah, Maribeth did. Go ahead, did you have a point to make, or are you just saying you move in? Okay,
Tree.
first the trees, yeah, okay. So the main objective in adding suggestions for these particular ordinance sections that the engineer is amending right now was to protect more trees. Trees have, whenever developers come in, trees go out. And you don't have to do more than look at the developments that are going right now to see it. So I think for me, the most important one is to say that the fee in lieu of replacement trees should be eliminated. And at the moment, it says, but in the event that the Board of Supervisors really thinks it should be kept, and I'm going to vote for actually striking that and just say, we recommend that the fee in lieu be struck. We are not going to vote on this time. We agreed to, we're working on it to vote on this in April. I'd be happy to have anybody's thoughts. Do you want me to explain how that fee in lieu for replacement trees works? Yeah. So the way the ordinances go now, when a developer comes into a woodland area, they're only supposed to take 20% of the trees. And then the next section says, but if you take more than 20% of the trees. Now I believe that there has to be permission to do that, but it does usually happen. Then you must plant replacement trees. Caliper inch per caliper inch. So the caliper is the diameter of the tree at breast height. A man's breast height, obviously. And the ordinance says 3 inches minimum for the replacement trees. And so if you have a 9-inch caliper tree being destroyed, that 3-inch caliper trees must replace that 9-inch caliper tree. So, you will not have the same effect on canopy cover and stormwater water uptake, to prevent more stormwater just rolling off the property right away. But in some years, there could be catch up for those 3 trees as opposed to the 1 9-inch tree. However, what the fee in lieu is, if you read it, it says the developer has to plant those replacement trees either on that property or somewhere else on the township that the Board of Supervisors says. Or if the Board of Supervisors chooses, the developer can pay a fee instead. So a fee in lieu, a fee in place of replacing the trees. And when that happens, we simply lose trees. End of story. I've spoken with people at Natural Lands, at Heritage, at a different land conservancy, at Bucks County Conservancy District, at a environmental company that advises townships, for instance, advises Buckingham Township. Who else? Stroud Water Research Center. They were great. They gave me a lot of advice. Everybody says that is awful. Good townships don't do that. who don't have fee in lieu for replacement trees. And I looked around and that footnote. blah, 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 blah. So Doylestown Township, Buckingham Township, New Britain Township, New Britain Borough, Chalfont Borough, Lower Merion Township. There are others. I didn't list every single one, of course, Middletown Township. They do not have the fee in lieu of replacement trees. It isn't even mentioned in the Pennsylvania Municipal Codes Ordinance. It's not that it's illegal, but it's not something that is provided for specifically. So legally, there's no problem with this, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It was passed by the Board of Supervisors and never had any, to best of my knowledge, never had any legal challenges. So yes, everything that they're doing as far as,
Mhm.
if a developer's following the ordinances for the township as far as they are written, they're not doing anything wrong.
But there's no,
Illegal, I should say.
there's no legal requirement to have a fee in lieu of.
Right.
Yeah. So. Sound good? Jerry Coleman, he'll give the address in the,
Is there any provision? Trees is set certain bunch of trees and then you die poorly. Is there any way of adding in some sort of 3 to 5 years later, those trees happen to be alive or again replaced?
We have an 18 period.
yes,
I just would like you to mention that the current ordinance that allows the fee in lieu was enacted in 2002.
interesting. I did not know that.
That's not a recent ordinance.
Oh, no, I know. I thought it would have been longer than that.
It may even be longer than that, but I've been told
Mhm,
2002 for something or other.
mhm.
That's nothing that the current board,
Oh, no,
that's why we're looking at that.
that's why we're looking at it.
They need,
Yes.
everything needs to be reviewed. It's just been left
Mhm,
for a long, long time.
mhm,
And many things have changed
mhm.
in 20 or 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that 18 months is pretty standard. It is short. Yes, it is. Apparently, who was telling me this? I think Jim Walter from the Buckingham EAC, that sometimes that period can be longer if the developer has contracted with a landscaper to put the trees in. And the landscaper, especially if the township takes a contract with the landscaper, might guarantee them longer. But I don't know that we do that. I don't know that we contract with landscapers like that.
We don't have to be
Mhm,
18 months. Put in, and then you have several summer of severe drought, as we've had. I can tell you the Wawa property, most of the trees planted there are dead. And there's no way we can require them to be replaced. I would hope that Wawa would wake up one day and realize that dead trees do not make a very attractive look. But we have no authority to tell them what to do on their property once the 18 months has expired. But a letter wouldn't hurt from the EAC township.
okay,
You know that, I mean, they're gonna have to do something with them, dead trees to start with it.
you can't lose if you try. Okay, yes, Terry,
Could you please give your full name?
Terry Young.
Thank you.
So, when does the clock start? When does the 18 month start?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
Upon dedication of the development to the township.
Sometime after, well after the planting.
Usually trees are planted near the end of the project. Sometimes planted, during at least the last half of the project. But the day one is the date that the board accepts dedication.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we should be looking at extending that,
that's what I'm
time
sitting here
too,
thinking about.
because I
Yeah.
think about when we moved in across the street
Mhm.
30 years ago, and we still had white pines that were dying 5, 6 years after we moved in, they had some kind of disease and it just went from one to the next, to the next, to the next.
So what we need to find out is whether the township has the right to extend the guarantee period. I don't know the answer to that, but I can try to find out. I agree, 18 months, it's still just a little baby. Now, a 3-inch caliper tree is not a small tree, but then again, that tree's more needy. You know, it requires a lot of watering. Yeah. So these are all problems, but the problem is worse with the fee in lieu. Because then if, not only is our trees usually not planted, but even if then this is in here in the recommendations, even if the township does plant trees. With some of that fee in lieu money, they pay more money. Because townships are constrained by certain purchasing limitations than the developers do. And if the tree dies, there's 0 time guarantee. If the tree dies, tough luck, it's your tree. So in every way, and then you add the stormwater problems that come with deforestation, and we all know about that. Everybody who was at the Got Mud knows about that. So it's just a lose for the township to do that. In the long run, it's a drain on the economy. It's not a plus. It's a drain. And Jerry Coleman is a tree tender and longtime planter of trees and knows all about how hard it is to keep them alive. We'll be going back checking the trees that we planted shortly and hope they're all still okay. Yeah,
They've had enough rain.
they've had rain. Had rain. Another thing that's important, and that's the very first recommendation. If the Board of Supervisors does not like the way a developer has planned out a property, they think that they could have done a better job taking down fewer trees. They could do a better job having more or less impervious surface, whatever. The Board of Supervisors can hire a professional planner on the developer's dime to give an alternate plan or to give recommendations or an opinion about the plan. And that's something that I think should be taken advantage of. Questions? Jerry says you can go for it. Yeah. I think they're the big ones. We probably should make very clear, this might need a little tweaking, that without the fee in lieu of, just exactly are we saying should happen? And hopefully it's clear that what we're saying should happen is trees should be planted. Just all the replacement trees should be planted. Are we good?
Mhm.
Okay. Margaret, do you want to talk about the other ones?
Okay, so, well, you've talked about both zoning and SALDO with regard to the woodlands. We
You
also,
want the microphone?
there also was an amendment to the traffic impact study requirements, both under zoning and SALDO. It's actually moving from zoning to SALDO. One requisite for a zoning permit was that it would be required for residential land development or subdivision of 50 or more dwelling units. The recommendation that I thought about with this would be that you base your residential on expected parking spaces. And the reasoning for that would be that a residential development with 2 or more spaces per unit is going to generate more traffic than a development with 1 parking spot per unit. So I don't think I would do it by dwelling unit. just a suggestion, and perhaps you could discuss that with Gilmore. We had not gotten into detail on the parking amendment yet.
Mhm.
That will come next month. But two additional items that we thought should be looked at for updating this year rather than waiting would be a recommendation that Gilmore take a look at Saldo section 22-714 on lighting. And the reason is because that code has not been updated since 2002. So it has been 22 years and environmental concerns on lighting has changed significantly in the last 2 decades. So it would be a good time to probably take a look at that one. And then I commend the work that was done on the native tree and native shrub
Mhm.
planting list, which was updated in zoning. But one thing we did notice recently because of Toll Brothers and the Birch Run is that the planting list that's in the Butler Overlay District is still the old planting list. So we would recommend that the Butler Overlay District, which is also under Saldo, be updated so that it is in coordination with all of the other zoning amendments that are going on right now, and everything is the same.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much it. At this point, we'll continue this discussion
Mhm.
next month when our other 2 members are here.
Mhm. Mhm. However, that is there also mentioned the Toll Brothers tree stuff that they agreed. Okay,
I guess
good.
we could, I
Yeah.
mean, Mary Beth was there, we weren't.
So Toll Brothers did agree to use the native list, right?
They had no problem plans looking into, and they agreed to look at the lighting to be compliant with dark sky. That sort of got shoved off to the engineers. They have to come back for final approval. And all those details will be updated on the plan at that time.
Mhm.
For those that aren't aware, I know a lot of the folks that are in the audience here are more into the planting and the native plants and removing invasives, but light pollution is an issue too. And let's face it, we're on the East Coast. There's very little we can do about the glow. We're never going to have the dark skies that you would have in the middle of the desert in Utah. That's just not going to happen here. However, in residential developments in particular, there's no reason to have bright spotlights that are, or streetlights that are going up into the sky and so forth. And with LED lighting, you get more of the blue light that is associated with the white lights, and that's been found to interfere with just the general health of people when you're trying to sleep and so forth.
Mhm.
So the idea is to tone it down, at least in the residential areas. I think that there is certainly balance that needs to be considered for safety when you're in a commercial district or a store. You want to have appropriate lighting, so you're going back to your car with your groceries, you can see what you're doing. However, in a development, for example, the development right across the street here, which is where I live, you don't need to have 100 streetlights on. You don't need that. I encourage my neighbors to, you don't need to have every light on in your backyard and your side yard and all of that. Certainly not at 2 o'clock in the morning. It affects bird migration and it affects the rhythms of the animals and how they move. And our animals here in this township and everywhere else around us are getting more and more crowded with development. So, perhaps there's a little bit that we can do to improve.
So that's a wonderful segue into the next agenda item, which is lighting. And what we wanted to do here is, and Margaret kicked us off, is just really have a discussion with you. What do you think about it? Are you familiar with these dark skies ideas? Yeah, Carol?
Yes, It not only affects Carol Weston.
Thank you.
I'll write it down before.
Oh, it's
it not
because
only
people are watching on Zoom, that's why.
It really affects the animals, not only us. It also affects the plant and the plant health. They need dark to feed. So if you're playing with the whole ecosystem, it isn't just one part of it. It's all of it. And it can be fixed pretty easily with just changing light bulbs and the direction of those bulbs. Like you go to LED with the yellow, we can stop torturing our nighttime pollinators. Moths do a lot of our pollinating in our gardens. I don't know if you're aware of that. But it takes in everything. It's not only us and our circadian rhythms, we're part of it too. And they found that those really bright lights, if they changed it to something a little lower, but still had the area lit properly, it doesn't have anything to do with being robbed for people in the shadows. It actually affects your vision to see somebody in the shadow because you're looking at bright light. So there could be 5 people standing there and you have no idea because it's so bright at your house, right? So they've done studies.
Mhm.
This is
Yeah. Does anybody have specific examples around the township or anything more to add about that?
Certain. Good enough to rebuy it. It's 30 feet in the air.
It's not 30 feet. It's pretty tall. Yeah, it's got to be at least 15, I would say.
I didn't say you could have measured.
I have a neighbor who's across the street and down a little bit, and their house is so bright. It looks like a Wawa. And honestly, there's no streetlights in Berry Road for the most part. Like, we don't have, it's a state on the way and it doesn't have lighting. But this house, you could land a plane. And it's new people, and the poor guy that lives across the street, I said, how do you like the new neighbors? And he said, "You can sleep. My whole house is lit up. It's like spotlights. It's across the street, so not across the street, but that is a different township. But I still think, I'm sure Doylestown Township has some rules too.
I think it really
It'd
started,
be much longer.
I think it kind of starts with education too. I mean, a lot of people,
They just don't. think
people move to the suburbs from the city and they think that this is a good thing, that they're lighting up their yards so they can land a plane.
Yeah.
I think we can maybe start as a council with just trying to educate the public, and you know,
Yeah.
try and get some voluntary actions.
Because even when there are ordinances, the township hesitates to go out like, the cop knocking at your door and saying, and then neighbors don't want to complain to the township about a neighbor. It gets tricky. So even if we do get good ordinances, and if anybody wants to help, by the way, no, I'm serious. I was told by one of our supervisors that, you have interested people who come to meetings, they can help out, like looking through ordinances to see what Doylestown's ordinance say, what does Buckingham's say? Buckingham has a good one for new development, but that's not helping us for what already exists.
But
It's
honestly,
easy for new development.
as the township develops more, we're running out of space by the Butler overlay corridor. It will be filled soon. And the development will start moving out into some of the more rural areas of the township. So if we can influence a new developer to tone down the lighting and set an example and show people that it really isn't unsafe, it really is better for you, and you're gonna get a better night's sleep because your neighbor's lights are not gonna be shining in your window. And the wildlife and the birds around you are going to do better, and the plants are going to do better, and it's education. We just need to start educating.
Well, if people have suggestions about how to go about the educating, because outreach is hard. Yeah, some, but it's for those who read it. Yeah, but there could be a page on lighting.
Well, maybe we can talk about how, we're definitely gonna do something at the fall festival, but maybe we can have a display on dark sky lighting and the
Mhm.
benefits and so
Mhm.
forth. That's gonna come around in no time.
It saves money.
Yes, it
If you
does.
use LED, it's not white, bright white, but yellow.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be like the old yellow bulbs. It just, it's so subtle. It's still a nice, bright enough light, it's softer. But you'll save a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure what. Yeah, what these.
I have no idea what we use, what we do. All I know is that Margaret Street lights, I heard about some, are at least 3 times brighter than the lights in my building.
You were so impressed with our street light.
It is like, it looks like a Broadway show with the lake like up now. But our lights are really dimish, and I don't mind that. You can still see fine. But
And they have to be aimed down and have tops that will direct the light down. If you let the light come out to the side, you're just losing all that light. It's disturbing the whole ecosystem, but it's not doing you any good down on the ground. Mhm.
If you're concerned about street lighting in subdivision,
Mhm.
I would suggest you request the engineer to develop a standard. There's a standard lumens,
Mhm.
whatever. That might be acceptable. And once that is established, then change the streetlights. So to meet that standard, you can do that.
You can
We-
say
we
it
own
has
street-
to be
Township.
retroactively done.
Yeah, township owns streetlights.
Mhm.
They can change the fixtures
Mhm.
and it could reduce the cost. I mean, that's part of that, you know, it's gonna take a year to go through the entire assessment process. But that's, if you're concerned about doing something, that's the only way you can address it is to develop a township-wide standard and apply that standard to all township-owned streets.
What about the pole lights in front of the Wawa? Are they streetlights?
Streetlights are
The ones
in
up
a
on the
public right of
poles?
way.
Mhm.
If it's on the architectural lights going down Butler Avenue, they're streetlights.
The ones that are high.
It's levels.
The ones that are on
vertical
poles.
posts are streetlights.
They are streetlights. That's
Yeah.
what I asked
Oh, I'm
about.
sorry. Yes. they're
That's what I
streetlights.
meant, those pole lights. So they could be changed.
You-
Yeah.
Yes. You need to have a standard.
Yeah,
And
right.
And standard is so many lumens.
Mhm.
So you can do that. And then the fixture would have to be identified. We got involved in this once, how many lights are in the fixture, what the lumens, what each light.
Mhm.
It's not a single light in an LED fixture. Lights are in the fixture, what's their lumen, that all has to be determined. Show the brightness. Could take a while to go through, but that's the only way you'll affect the issue that you're talking.
For the streetlights, yeah. Mhm, mhm. Jerry?
Little bears. There are no streetlights. Which we very much appreciate. It's annoying when somebody moves in and is on a bright porch light or 3 or 4 of them. Modern technology helps quite a bit, things like motion sensors. Dimmable switches, whatever it be, but really to follow up on what you're saying, there's at least 3 issues that I'm seeing. One is the residential, 2 is the public street lighting, and 3 is the commercial lighting.
the township doesn't really have an ability to control what an individual homeowner does. I haven't read all the ordinances, but we can do something about street lighting, we can do something about commercial. But when it comes to an individual homeowner, there has to be,
It's
we
an
have to take
education.
we have to take a step back. It's education. Because I can't go out, the township can't go out and say, your lights are too bright. Oh, and by the way, we don't like that bush and we don't like the color of your curtain. You're getting into over discovered, right?
Interrupted, but the train going here, I wasn't saying that we should be doing that, I'm just saying we've got three separate issues, the homeowner, the commercial, and that which we directly have to fight over is streetlights. If one point I wanted to make is it's not just lumens, it's spectrum.
Yes. Again, that's to be discussed at the times you establish a standard.
Sure.
What do you want? So it's issues and the engineers will.
My question then was going to be, do we have any ability to require the commercial lighting to be retrofitted over a period of time
No,
to meet different standards?
no, it's a educational process with, I'd start with the homeowner. They're easier to
No,
do.
no, I'm talking about commercial.
I said, the commercial, let's talk a big box, okay? The guy who's managing that big box has nothing to do with outside the box. Okay, it's either the corporate entity that manages, that it's either Giant or it's Home Depot or whoever owns that is operating in that big box, operates the lights, or it's the property owner, an LLC who owns the property and constructed the building that constructed the lights. They're the ones that have the ability to do that.
Right.
And finding those people is a monumental task. Because they're hidden behind so many things, can't do it. Government needs to attack those things that can hack or educate. John Q. Public, the residential, everybody's concerned about the guy who has 20,000 lights, this guy in my property, down the end of my street, he lit up his whole front yard. It looks nice. He lit up his whole front yard. So if that's an issue, at one or more of your community events, have a policy on that and have, not only is it bad for the environment, but it affects your neighbors. And what does it do to your neighbors? I'm losing my sleep because my neighbor has too much light on. I'm telling you, the guy who has too much lights doesn't know he's affecting his neighbor. He's in his bubble. You have to educate the public one at a time in order to affect change.
John, can you have targeted education then where you
Yeah.
identify a residential owner and say your subdivision, either by a mailing or some way saying,
You can develop a mailing.
Coming from the town?
You can-
well, or from an advisory type.
Yes, you can develop a thing.
An informational sheet.
A little, there are all kinds of opportunities you can put on the web. Go out to somebody's house, go out on this, not in this township, okay, somebody else's township. And take pictures of things that are good and bad. Okay, and put it on the web. This is good, this is bad. Why or not? A picture is worth 100,000 words in the public's mind, okay? That's how you can affect change. And you can put it on the web and they can see it. Or you can have it as a streaming thing when you're out on a table at the community events. But when you're going to do these good and bad, do not do it in this township. Go someplace else, take the pictures. Okay.
So the board of supervisors or some entity within the government of the township should not be sending a direct
No,
educational mailing to a particular address.
no,
Could an individual that's.
I'm not gonna answer that question. I would suggest that any educational material come from this committee. It's their role. And produce something that could be even to the board and say, we think this is appropriate. The board can say, okay, put it on our website or use that. That's how you can affect change. And I'm gonna edit this out so that nobody knows I told somebody to go to somebody else's township.
I would say as to the commercial, you certainly can try the same education with the commercial. The
Yes,
point I think John was trying to make is that you need to find the decision maker. And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. That might be a little more difficult. Giant leases that property from whoever owns the shopping center. Giant might be willing to do something, but they have no control over the lights in the parking lot. They don't have to tell you who they lease from.
There's,
And even if you found out the name and their address, you could send a letter and you might never hear anything, but that doesn't mean you can't try.
right. It's easier. You will get, if you're successful in changing a modest amount of things on streetlights, at a couple of property, you can use that model to go someplace else. Business key, because you can show success of it. That's where that kind of stuff happens. It's the little incremental changes you time that you can say to the shopping center where the Giant is. It's managed by Brixmor, they're a national company. You know, you can get a hold of them, the local manager, and say, listen, this is what we have done. Here is your lighting. Here's our standard. Here's the lighting, and we've done a picture of what the standard could be in your parking lot, and it can reduce your expenses. Or it's better, it meets the environment or whatever. You have a story to tell. And you have a successful story to tell because you have done it in other places where it's worked. That's how you can get the big box to do it.
And that's predicated on the idea that you've got examples, standards.
Yes, you have to have
What you're
it.
telling them about, if you assign them, yes.
Mhm.
I'll give kudos to CVS at the end of my street, turning out their lights regularly when they go to sleep at night. And I will complain about the school at the top of the street. It doesn't do such a good job of turning off the lights.
That should be one we could have some control over.
Secure.
Then
That is a big issue with certain
But,
schools, churches.
yeah, but what Dark Skies has shown is that you can have the same amount of quality lighting, and along the lines of what Carol's saying, lots and lots of more bright light doesn't give you more security. With appropriate shields, it's aimed down onto the area that needs to be lighted, as opposed to having glare and a different spectrum. So the standards that are being developed now have, I like this, it's a bug rating. And so the B is backlight, the U is uplight, which is the worst, and the G is glare. And so there are a lot of types of lights now being developed that have a bug rating. And there are lots of different recommendations for the type of building or institution and what would be an appropriate bug for that. A school is going to have a higher bug than a residence will, because it needs to cover more territory. It's a public usage, etc. But that Butler could be lighted just as well, but differently. So that is probably something that we want to address, and then maybe be able to move on to something like churches, which are not as public. So,
Aerial nighttime shot. Sources.
yeah, right. Okay.
The other thing you're going to find when you go to a place where there's bright lights in the parking lot is that, well, you know, we have somebody who falls, say that, well, it was too dark, and now we're facing a lawsuit. And so that's going to be one of the arguments that we would come up against.
I'm sorry, could you please state your name for the record and for people on Zoom?
So.
your name.
Your name, your full name. Who are you?
Okay. My name is Mary Challenge, CHALICH.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I should have.
I forget all the time at supervisor meetings. You get. But Mary, that's exactly the point, is
Yeah.
the appropriate lighting doesn't have to give you less light on the ground. It gives you light that is pointed down to the ground, practically none going out as glare and hopefully 0 going up. Yeah, it's gonna be a little leakage. There could be a 1 instead of a 0, B in the bug. But it should,
Best visuals.
is that from Dark Skies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A picture that they have gotten a lighting presentation that demonstrates really how you can still have the safety on the ground, but not necessarily be shooting up into the sky.
So some of you might remember that all of the EAC members attended the virtual EAC network conference about a month ago. And it was broken down into a number of sessions. It was an all-day thing, and one of the sessions was Dark Skies. So we already cared about lighting, but that was really helpful, and it gave us a lot of information. And then Margaret has since started to become our lighting expert.
Not sure that I would call myself an expert, not at this point, but I am learning.
She's going down the rabbit hole.
I have gone down the rabbit hole and I'm contacts now. Emailing
Mhm.
people that are much smarter than I am on this entire topic, but good contacts and good
People-
information.
People care. There are so many people who care, and people at good institutions. And I found the same thing with the trees and stormwater. You can ask a question of people you think might be too big for you. They are happy to help. So you can get so much information just really by asking around. Philadelphia has tried to go dark skies, because do you remember when they had that bird kill event? Yeah. Yeah.
It was 2020 or 2021.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were a lot of birds that flew, migrating birds that flew into skyscrapers. It's like thousands, literally.
Yeah, they came out in the morning and just the street was covered with dead birds. Yeah, and they enacted a dark sky ordinance. I don't know how successful it is, because I still see a lot of lights when I fly in. But maybe it's a lot better than it was.
Well, during migration periods, a lot of the bigger skyscrapers have voluntarily dimmed their lights in the spring and in the fall.
Some people don't voluntarily do it. and
Right.
the Numbers, they're not as high as that event, but
Right.
Education.
So, education. And it is already the end of March and the Fall Festival is in September. So if I do the math in my head, it's less than 6 months. So I need to start putting together a presentation.
Wonder if there's some way to put up a screen and.
Nah,
It's
probably
outside.
poster boards and things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Right,
So if there's any artists out there that would like to volunteer, artists, no? Because I can't draw anything to save my life.
Well, good day for that.
Speaking of the parade, is there any way we could have some sort of presence at the 4th of July parade, either like where it starts at town center or where it ends in the park? I mean, not necessarily on the parade route, but places where people are more likely to gather.
I don't know.
You could probably do something where it starts, by the time it gets to the park, there's not many people here. Or you could even do some sort of float. Float.
we already started.
She already started this. One group's float, we won't mention any identification, but yeah. Already started, yeah.
Well, if there's still bags left, we can still hand out bags from the 300th anniversary. We were doing that at the Easter egg hunt,
Mhm.
grocery bags.
Grocery bags with educational materials. Well, if anybody has any more suggestions for education, I mean, that's one of the hardest things. There just isn't, the website, the idea of the website is lovely, but how often do people go? And our website's very hard to navigate.
It's going to be fixed. I do think that newsletter, you could certainly put in an article each time
Mhm.
on lighting, native plants, pollination, whatever. I think it would be a little more interesting than some of the other articles that we have in there, especially since I wrote most of them.
Ah. Well, unfortunately, it's only twice a year. It had been 4 times a year. I think it got cut down to 2,
Yeah,
didn't
I thought we got cut down to 2 as
it?
well.
John, is it 2 now? Yeah,
And when were those mailed? Cause I don't think we got ours. It
Yeah.
just.
got mine about a week ago.
I was saying I had mine at least a week ago.
Well, it's, that kind of postage, it's rolls out gradually.
Do you know, John, when the deadline is for the next one?
Hmm,
I think there's a question in the back.
Good to develop strategy, best way to do that. What are the neighborhoods that are here? Do we know anybody that lives in those neighborhoods that's relevant to this idea? Can they arrange neighborhood meeting in their backyard, or something like that, to introduce this? Things that I've been involved in the past, where you get ownership from that neighborhood and you identify them in some publication or something as this is a best practice of reducing lighting in an exit. Get a buy-in that way, reward them in some manner.
mhm.
And that might be a workflow to.
That's a great idea. We're going to need help. I mean, I know this is a small group right here, but we'll need help doing this kind of stuff. I'm hoping we can get, think about it. If you know somebody, we'll say this again next time, when I think we'll have more people. And we could identify a few neighborhoods. I mean,
And the
it's-
same thing would go too with the builders and developers that if you proactively approach them before they're going into an area, if you know they're buying up some land, get them this idea ahead of time. Then Toll Brothers becomes a best practice in a company that is doing this, good stuff with it.
Mhm. Mhm.
We have had, very recently, within the last year or two, a lot of cooperation from several builders. Because the developmental pressure has moved up above the lake. And it's not the massive developments, but it's, 10 acres and we're putting 5 houses on them. So they've been approached, by certain factors about dark skies and trying to keep the lighting. So when they design the building and they have control over what they put in, but once it's sold to the resident, then the resident can do what they want, but I think they may mention it. So, and Toll Brothers is very amenable to, because it really doesn't cost them anything.
Mhm.
One lamp is the same as another lamp. If one's dark sky compliant, one isn't. It's really negligible to them. But yeah, before they start purchasing for that property. And the same with the plantings. It's really nothing. It's just educating them. And I think the more they hear it, I've seen now more questions on Facebook from people who does native plants and what landscaper can help me with this. And so it's becoming a better known concept. And I think the better known concept it is, see more and more of it and be able to say to people, this is a best practice. Or I know I have several neighbors who like their every single light on their house on all night. And it's annoying, but I can't tell them either as a neighbor or as anybody else that they can't have their lights on. I can try and educate them about why it's not a good idea, but
Mhm.
And I would just to add, add or this thing is that include that recognition at the end, because people deserve to be recognized if they're doing the behaviors that we, that,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
make sure we add that to whatever tactics we're using to try to make this,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
be it a builder or an individual or.
right, right. Yeah, if Toll Brothers comes through and does put the dark skylights in that development, we could let it be known somehow. Yeah, right.
Thank
Yep. Um. And landscapers, this is a shift, but landscapers are some of the most egregious in terms of tree practices. In the newsletter, I would like to put a column, Jerry would agree with me, about tree volcanoes. About building the mulch up. Landscapers do it. It's the darn landscapers that do it. If we could talk to some landscaping companies and try to educate them somehow without getting the township in trouble, compliment them on doing work appropriately, we could maybe try to shift that, because now homeowners think that that's not only correct, but attractive.
I'm sorry, water tree volcanoes.
So you have a tree and it's in the ground here, and the mulch is put up like this.
Okay,
And if, say this
this is
is,
what I would have guessed, but
yeah. So
the context.
this thing right here is the root flare, which is at the bottom of the tree where the roots start to flare out.
Too.
Huh?
Is this just recorded voice, or is there a camera here too?
I can't help giving,
Oh, good.
I
There you
can't
go.
help giving these demonstrations, anybody who's watching, so this is what you do. This is the root flare, you never ever cover the root flare with mulch, it will rot. And voles love to live under mulch, and they'll crawl in and they will chew around and kill your tree. So. No, mulch volcanoes. It's so handy that that was there, it even had a root flare. But you see it everywhere, you see it everywhere. We probably should move along. Please talk to some of your neighbors. But Terry had some great ideas, Jerry had some great ideas. I think we can get going on the lighting. I think that the township would probably be receptive to moving on to lighting once with ordinances.
Well, I think if John says, since these rewrites of the ordinances have come from the engineer,
Mhm.
then we need to work with the engineer to set a standard and what we'd like to see so that it's available to everybody.
Mhm.
But there's still plenty of space in the newsletter for an article or two.
Yeah. Right,
And it can be put on our Facebook page too.
yep. Okay. All right, that's great. I didn't know how starting a conversation around lights would go. But we're going great, thank you. So a quick update on the landscape plans. I'm sure everybody notices, like, the township building is surrounded by black mulch. What is this? There was a very nice landscape plan done by Jessica
Young, yeah. It's Jessica Young. I think.
Jessica Young.
No, is that her
Jessica.
last one? It's Jessica's last name.
Jessica's.
Jessica's on
Just
park
on
board.
Parks and Rec.
She's a landscape architect, and she is on the Park and Rec board. And she had produced a very nice plan for the entire perimeter.
It is young.
It is young. I talked to her at the Easter egg hunt. She's very lovely. For all around the township building, but apparently the township building is going to be renovated. And the footprint's going to change. So it was put on hold. We need to find out more about that.
We have several very nice landscape plans. One was done originally when the building was built. Unfortunately, they didn't follow it. We ordered one from our engineers, Gilmore, which they did a beautiful sketch, was never followed. And then she
Jessica,
did a plan. I'm not sure what's happening with the building, that's all up to discussion, but I'm sure as anyone could tell you, in the government business, from conception to actual implementation can be 5 years or more. So we have 5 years to do something out there. What I would like help with is we have some shrubs and bushes out there that I have not been able to identify. So if anyone wants to swing by during the daylight hours, once things start leafing out again,
Where are they?
there's 3 in a row that are right here in front of the building that I can't. Okay. I don't know
I'm sure
whether-
they're not exotic.
They're,
Though they may not be
a lot of
native.
them were exotics.
I mean,
Yeah,
She means so
that-
unusual that she wouldn't be able to pick it out, yeah.
The person that has been doing some things with the garden over the last number of years, an employee of the township, hates them because they sucker all the time.
Oh.
Yeah. The-
Well, I believe Jessica's plan was all natives.
all these plants are potatoes.
Really?
And the original plan for the building wasn't followed. Gilmore was paid to engineer, we have that over-engineered whole landscape plan. Never instituted. This was 10 years or so ago, I don't know why.
So Mary Beth, I can understand if there's still discussions about maybe changing the footprint of the building, but in the meantime, can we just get some basic perennials out there?
5 years, we have at least 5 years.
So putting.
You mean nothing
some-
can be done for 5 years?
If we decide to, we have to go through an engineering process, study process, this process, that process. Then you've got bids, it's gonna be 5 years before anything's actually built. So we have 5 years of this footprint at a minimal to do something, and yes, we should do something.
So the board would not be averse to getting going on some of this planting, even though some of it may need to be dug up later.
5th year. Every year. I've asked for something to be done every year. So this year, we might get something done.
I think this is something we should coordinate with Parks and Rec,
Mhm.
because this is part of
Oh,
the
yeah.
part. Also, if I recall correctly, one thing about Jessica's plan was that all the plants were safe for children and pets. So if you don't have to worry about someone bringing their dog to walk in the park and then eating the wrong plants. Which of course, we don't want anything to happen to the dogs in general, but there's also the question of liability. I think she may have pointed out 1 or 2 plants on the Gilmore plan that were actually poisonous. So that is something that I want to take into consideration.
Yeah, this was actually a park board thing. I was just sort of reporting on it because we didn't know
Because we
that there had
reached
been a
out to
plan
Jessica
and
to
we
see
found
what
out
was
there
going
was a
on.
plan and it was from Park
This
and
was
Rec.
from September.
Yes,
Do you know if she still has that plan, she could send out again, because I'm not sure I saw that.
The last time it was discussed was in September
Last
of
year.
last year. And I believe it's in the meeting minutes from Parks and Rec.
Oh, Park and Rec, okay.
Yes, so we had reached out to Jessica because we were kind of wondering what was going on with it, and she said that it was on hold. So
Because the
we
building
had
was going to be
actually asked her if
renovated.
she would come and present and
Mhm.
to us.
Okay, so without going into too much detail, there's been a lot of confusion over different things, and certain instructions or decisions may have been made that weren't made by the board themselves. So if she has a plan, would you ask her to resend it? Send it to me in particular?
I think she was also working with the Veterans Committee. I don't remember, and because she
That
was
was that,
presenting a plan to
Because of
Martha.
the veteran
Right.
outside the building. I'm talking about the.
Okay. Well, you had mentioned plants around the building and that's a bit.
Got a fire hydrant in the middle of the bed. So you can't put anything to that would restrict access to to the fire hydrant.
Well, this is good news. Are you going to the next part?
But you-
Yes, Parks and Rec. We can let them know that it looks like this will be able to. These,
I know. Yeah, but
And they have to,
something with the word, something else.
it's,
apparently the budget changed.
this is not gonna be them.
Okay, moving on, right. Did we have other business? I remember, Margaret, did I say that we were going to do something in other business and I didn't write it down? I guess we don't. Any public comment, questions?
Oh, wait,
What?
wait. We just got asked about the survey.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the township is revising, updating its open space plan. And they have contracted with the county to help with that. And the county is wanting to start with a survey to a random group of residents. And we just very recently got the very, very early first draft of what that survey would look like, or a first pass, let's say. We haven't had a chance to do much with it yet, but we just wanted to report on it. We can be sending something out soon, perhaps, but just wanted to let you know that this is happening. We'll give some comments, EAC will give some comments on this first draft of what a resident survey would look like, and then things will start to move forward. One of the ways that the township can preserve property, it can try to buy it. Okay, so if there's a really natural resource rich area, the township can try to buy it. And but another way is a conservation easement, which is when a resident agrees and a contract, which can be complex and there are various ways to do it, is drawn up that says it still belongs to the homeowner and the homeowner can sell it or pass it down or whatever, but it is conserved permanently. So it will not be developed. It may be another little house. If somebody says, my son wants to have a house on the property, okay, but it's not going to be sold to a developer. There's not going to be any major impervious or development on it. That's a conservation easement. So if you know anybody, the township is going to be wanting to protect open space. Like, fair enough to say, right, Mary Beth?
I think so. We tax our residents, or the earned income tax, a quarter percentage. That is set aside specifically to be able to purchase open space or purchase the development rights on property. So we haven't done much lately. We have had people come to us, but we haven't done much outreach.
Mhm.
And that's what I'd like to change, and we need to spread that by word of mouth to people.
Right.
Um,
Again, just getting
as
to
we saw at
people.
Schoolhouse, you have a 5-acre property. 4-acre property, with a little house on it, developer comes in and we now have half the trees down and 5 new houses being built.
Mhm, mhm. And it's, a lot of people are quite willing to do that, and they want to make sure that that land that they really care about doesn't turn over into a development someday. Yeah. Turn.
The land adjacent, one side of our property is under a conservation.
Aren't you lucky? Aren't you lucky?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The gentleman hunts on it now,
Mhm.
and he has the right to build a 1-2 acre residence.
Mhm.
But, yeah, it's great to exercise. Living lands.
Yeah, yeah. And he's happy with it.
Yeah, he was just over over at my place, last week, some of his trees have come over on my north pasture fence. So we were cleaning that up together, and he was saying that the township had actually approached him several times and made several offers, and eventually they got to the point where he's accepted.
Excellent.
He's quite happy.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Anybody else on anything? Mhm. Thank you so much. It was a small group, but it was lively. And hopefully we take some steps on the lighting. We'll keep you up on that. Yeah, yeah. And think about your own neighborhood. Think about, could you and a neighbor get together and have a little coffee clutch or something and talk to people about lights. Think how you could go about it. Every neighborhood's different. I love that idea. Yeah. And we'll think about commercial. All right. Well, thank you so much. All right. So,
We need
adjourn.
to adjourn.
I'm gonna take my tree. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I want you to adjourn.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So adjourned. Do you want to put your name and address down, Jerry? Yeah. Margaret, Mary, you should put your address down.
Margaret, that was